Hey, what's up, Steelers Nation? I'm Tyler Feldman. The Steelers have never won a divisional Thursday night football game on the road. 0-6 all time. That's got to end this week against the Burrow-less Bengals, right?
And I'm Ben Bobick. The Steelers playing their Thursday night game in mid-October. Good. Get it out of the way.
I'm Wayne Gandy, former offensive tackle for the Pittsburgh Steelers. Two old quarterbacks on a short week.
And I'm Chris Carter of the Locked On Steelers podcast. We're going to cover all the angles of Thursday night football, getting you ready for big AFC North matchup. It's the Locked On Steelers Squad Show. Let's get into it.
Wave those terrible towels. It's the Steelers Squad. Everything Pittsburgh Steelers every week. Breaking down all the big hits and game-changing plays from the Steel City. The way only the Locked On Podcast Network can. From the steel curtain to the next generation, the Steelers Squad Show starts now.
Yes, it does. This is the Steelers Squad Show right here on the Locked On Podcast Network. Tonight's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off your first purchase. Again, I'm your host, Tyler Feldman. Happy Wednesday night, everyone. On tonight's show, we're talking Steelers-Bengals, the Steelers' Thursday night woes, the struggling AFC North outside of Pittsburgh, of course, best sound of the week, Wayne's World, keys to beating the Bengals, and our expert predictions for the game tomorrow night. All right, let's get right to it, boys. Thursday night football has not been kind to the Steelers over the last handful of seasons, really since they started Thursday night football. Under Mike Tomlin, the Steelers 2-8 in road Thursday night football games, 0-6 on the road in divisional Thursday night football games. They've not won a road Thursday night football game since 2016 against the Indianapolis Colts. Chris, what is it about Thursday night that the Steelers just can't figure out, especially away from home?
Well, that's the thing. It's really Thursday night away from home. Thursday night at home, they do decent. But Thursday night away, it's the short week. It's the quick turnaround. I also think sometimes it's just circumstantial, right? Like, you got some of those games being like Mitch Trubisky against the Browns or Mason Rudolph against the Browns when he got clobbered by Myles Garrett, got by his own helmet by Myles Garrett. You got some odd matchups in there. You had that Blizzard game where the Steelers looked like they were in control until that Blizzard hit, and then everything kind of just went sideways against the Browns. And so the Steelers have never won. They're 0-6 against divisional opponents on road Thursday night football games. But an interesting thing that my guy Wes Euler from Steelers Nation Radio pointed out on our Wednesday episode of Locked On Steelers, he said, go look at Aaron Rodgers' record in road Thursday night football games. And lifetimes, he is 6-3. He's pretty strong there. He looks pretty solid when he's in those games. He's able to kind of get the offense going. Lots of 27 plus 30-point performances is in there. I think part of what's gotten in the way is that when stuff hits the fan, because short weeks, you don't have as much time to prepare. You're on the road, so you're considering a lot. You're in a hostile environment. You don't get to get out the full game plan and the full level of details that you want. And so sometimes you need star power, or you need someone to kind of pull your team up and be the factor that gets you over the hump. And I think that, for a long time, the Steelers did not have that quarterback that could do that in key moments. And that's even with Ben Roethlisberger. Ben Roethlisberger, I thought this was one of his biggest weaknesses of his career. Go look at his away numbers, especially in the division. He was bad on the road for much of his career. And I think that's something that played a factor into some of these matchups that they lost back in the day. So Aaron Rodgers, less of a case. Aaron Rodgers has always been a more prepared quarterback than Ben Roethlisberger. I think Ben had him in some of the key physical traits. But I think if there's going to be a thing that gets the Steelers through it this time around, is that Aaron Rodgers is going to come. He's going to be more prepared. He's going to make better decisions. And then it's going to come down to, can the Steelers parts of their team win the way that they're designed to win? Can they win the trenches and not give up any fluky things to the Bengals in that area? If they do that, I think they put themselves in the driver's seat to control this game.
A reminder to always check out Christopher Carter on the daily Steelers podcast on the Locked On Steelers podcast channel. Chris, I listened to that show with Wes. I think he said Aaron Rodgers on Thursday night, 44 touchdowns, 5 interceptions. I didn't have a chance to fact check that. But Wayne, when you have those kind of numbers and your team hasn't really fared well on the road on Thursday nights, and now you're getting this guy who can be pretty efficient in a big way offensively, that seems to bode well for the Steelers here on Thursday this week against the Bengals.
Everybody hates Thursday night football. Right? Come on, be honest. Nobody's ready for a football game. The one thing I did see on Sunday, I felt like the defensive coordinator, Austin, was rotating a lot of guys. Something made me feel like he was rotating the defense, especially the linebacker, that front seven. Usually you put your starters out there and you just let them go until they raise their hand. But I saw almost like a college rotation, and something about made me think about Thursday night football, the short week. That's how they were going to attack it already mentally on how they were going to get prepared for this game tomorrow night. But as you guys were speaking about, Aaron Rodgers, Jonnu Smith, DK Metcalf, you got to go to those guys. That's the old Steelers. That's not these guys and what they want to bring to the field. I think you're going to get a highly engaged team tomorrow night trying to take advantage and go into this rest period with another victory within the division. But Thursday night is hard. And when you look at the Bengals, they don't have much of a rush game to bail Flacco out if that's who is still ready to start tomorrow night. So the Steelers, you got to feel good at where they are.
The Unk Bowl, some people call it with Aaron Rodgers and
No.
and Joe Flacco.
Am I the only one to get the discount at Denny's? Is it me?
Man, I'll take a grand slam any day of the week, Wayne. You give me that plate in that platter, I'm set. Ben, are the Steelers set to win this game? You look at the AFC North over the last 3 weeks, 2-9. Steelers 2-0. The rest of the division 0-3 the last 3 weeks. Steelers got to win this game, right? And it starts with Aaron Rodgers and that rotational defense that Wayne was talking about.
Absolutely, and it's taking care of business here. We talked about it a couple weeks ago, going into the bye week or on the bye week. It was like you look at these next two games, they really lock in. They're two very winnable games that could set themselves up for the long run in the division and for the season if they could clean it up. Well, they got one half of it done on Sunday against the Browns, and now here the Bengals are on Thursday night football. So it's that's what it's about. And you rely on those veterans, like Wayne said, to know what's at stake here. They know what's at stake. They know if they could get this win, what their record will be, get a couple extra days rest before the Packers come to town for a big primetime showdown. So absolutely. I mean, it feels like that must win, I feel like is weird to say because they're in a pretty good spot, but it's one of those games they should win in the sense of things. But I really do. I think it's all about these veterans locking in and just taking care of business. That's all they need to do. And I'm glad that Wayne mentioned it too, because that was the benefit of beating the Browns the way that they did, where some guys were able to get a little bit of extra rest there in the fourth quarter, didn't have to go full go at least because they were in cruise control for much of that fourth quarter. Very beneficial on a short week, especially with another divisional opponent on tap.
Chris, we could talk more about this game, and I do want to get to some of the best sound from this week because there have been a lot of blow-up sound bites. So we'll get to that. We'll get to that later in the show. I am curious anything that you heard from practice this week that will pertain more to the game on the field from anyone inside the locker room that stood out to you.
I mean, between Joey Porter just being surprised at Jamar Chase's raw dog comment, nothing too crazy. Honestly, I think what's going to be really interesting about this game is that there is a confidence in this cornerback room to run with they specifically went and got Darius Slay and Jalen Ramsey, and they drafted Joey Porter Jr. years ago with the intent of they wanted a cornerback room that could run with the Bengals, because when they had Levi Wallace and other guys in there, they were basically saying like, hey, we're gonna line up in man, but we can't run man with these guys. We got to always go zone. Now they can mix it up, and so this will be the first test run, and they don't have to even face Joe Burrow in doing it. I think that's the thing that I'm going to be interested to see. I did a whole film breakdown as far as how Terrell Austin is setting up the blitz. The Steelers are blitzing at the second highest rate in the NFL. They're getting sacks at the second highest rate in the NFL. They've changed how they operate. And when I asked Terrell Austin about what led into that, he's like, it's the personnel. It's the different things that we have. And he's basically pointing to the cornerbacks, the cover linebackers, the guys they have in the back end to make sure that when they do blitz, they have things covered up behind them. And I think that's going to be a story of this game and a lot of games this season. They built this team to be able to take on teams that had star wide receivers that were really good at passing the football. And even though it's not Joe Burrow, Joe Flacco, I mean, go look at his numbers in the second half last week. He was not good in the first half against the Packers, but then picked it up in the second half. And if the Bengals had any defense, they might have actually been in that game late. But Joe Flacco's not going to come out here and just lay down for you. You got to come out, you got to cover, you got to take away quick reads. You got to force him to have to fit some amazing passes deep down the field, and also know that those receivers, they're going to win some of those. But you got to trust that your defensive front that you've been building, you've been getting better with, is going to be able to win against the run, is going to be able to get after the quarterback, and is going to be able to disrupt Joe Flacco enough and beat this bad Bengals offensive line to the point where they negate any advantages you think you might have with that 1-2 punch at wide receiver.
Kind of like a Scooby-Doo episode. Terrell Austin, I mean, you ripped that mask off at the end. Is that Dick LeBeau under there? Is that what we're seeing from this Pittsburgh defense right now? Hey, Junior Mafia says Raw Dog was crazy work. Laugh emoji. It was, to put it lightly, crazy work. Wayne, this Pittsburgh defense, especially the secondary going up against this high-powered offense, especially at the wide receiver position, the Bengals, this is going to be a great test, and the Steelers really need to figure out a way to make it happen and move to 5-1.
Yeah, and the thing that I think the Steelers have caught a couple of breaks these last two games by being able to see Joe Burrow already in a Bengals uniform. You want to get that kind of stuff on tape so you can see how he would use all those weapons. This is one of those games on a short week. If he had just got moved over, you have no idea what would happen. But now, and even in the Cleveland game, with Gabriel, I talked about it was so good to know that there was not going to be a quarterback swap as far as Flacco going in. But the Steelers already knowing Flacco, already having that animosity towards Chase and Higgins and those guys. So it gets you engaged already for this game. And the way the secondary, based on health, played last week, you kind of got a feel of how all these pieces can move around and affect a game. You was able to bring Jalen Ramsey out of the slot blitzing a couple of times and take those gambles with Joey Porter back and Darius Slay to man up and play some man. And even when you had to go to Brandon Echols, it seemed just the secondary and the depth really paid dividends on Sunday. And now on a short week, you got to hope also they're going to be in that same position.
Joe Flacco in the regular season, 11-11 all time against the Pittsburgh Steelers. But Ben, deep down inside, Chris kind of alluded to it, said it a little bit, but I don't love the idea of Joe Flacco on a new team in the division playing the Steelers. It does kind of, I'm a little worried. I'm not a lot worried. It makes you think.
Quick question here to the whole panel, guys. Is this the best receiver group that Joe Flacco's ever had?
This is what it's a perfect segue, Chris. That's literally what I was just about to say. I was like, I think that it probably is. I mean, when you think about just with Jamar Chase and T. Higgins alone, I mean, my goodness. I mean, absolutely, Tyler. I mean, that's the first thing I thought of. I'm like, oh, man, now that changes that whole Thursday night football game, because if we're rolling in there and we got to face if the Steelers have to face Jake Browning, you're feeling really good about it. Now it's like, man, this guy knows a bit what to expect out of it. I mean, shoot, they just beat the Steelers last year with Indianapolis. I mean, he diced them up a bit in the second half. Granted, different team and whatnot. They're different personnel. You can go that route, but still, I mean, this is a guy that's very familiar. But it's a double-edged sword. Whereas we know him, he knows us, sort of thing. And so it just comes down to you bank on, like what Chris was saying. You bank on how the defense has been playing. This is a big game for them with T. Higgins and Jamar Chase. These are two big dogs, and when it comes to receivers in this league, and so it's going to be a really good opportunity. And then you add in the added intrigue, or the added hurdle of it being a short week. That adds into it as well. So I'm with you, man. When I saw, and Mike Tomlin said it best today or this week, man. His frustration is, I think, how a lot of us were thinking, like, why would you guys do that and trade him in division?
As the person who asked that question, I want to pose this to you guys here because I think some people are misreading what that was really about. A lot of people are saying, oh, Mike Tomlin's just mad because he got to play Joe Flacco. And there is a frustration there that's like, dang, like really, Cleveland, you're going to trade him there? Okay, I guess. But go back to what Kevin Stefanski said when he was first asked about this trade. And Kevin Stefanski was blindsided. He said he didn't know this was happening. It can tell you there's some weird stuff going on in Cleveland right now about the decisions, the whole Shador thing, how the quarterback situation has worked in total. And Kevin Stefanski's taken a lot of heat. And people don't know this, but like Kevin Stefanski and Mike Tomlin are really cool. They used to coach together in Minnesota. Like they have a connection. I think that was where there's a little bit of frustration Mike may have about, having to play Flacco when they were thinking, okay, Jake Browning, we can get that guy. I think the bigger thing is that there's that coaching fraternity that like they do stick up for each other. And I think he wanted, when I asked him that question, I was just thinking, hey, this is, it's Joe Flacco. Here we go again. But I think he wanted to take that opportunity to stand up for his guy, Kevin Stefanski, and be like, hey, that I don't understand that move at all. And, and when Kevin Stefanski's clearly distanced himself from it, it puts more towards Andrew Berry so that when stuff hits the fan for the Browns this year, people, it's more of it's like, hey, don't blame the coach, blame the GM who keeps putting this coach in this rough situation.
Chris, I'm glad you brought that up because that's what we're going to be talking about after the break. So we've got a little appetizer. We'll get the full course, get our thoughts on that sound bite. Thanks to Chris for asking that question and so much more. That's next right here on the Locked On Steelers Squad Show. But first, the NFL season is here, and FanDuel has an offer you don't want to miss. Right now, new customers can bet just $5 and get $300 in bonus bets if you win. That's right. Pick a bet, put down $5, and if it hits, you'll unlock $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. I really love how FanDuel gives me so many ways to play. I've built parlays, tried player props, and even followed the live lines during games. It makes watching football even more exciting when you've got a little something extra riding on the action. And whether you're a casual fan or just love diving into the stats, FanDuel makes the game day experience so much better. So what are you waiting for? Visit FanDuel.com to download the FanDuel app today and get started. All right, back here on the Locked On Steelers Squad Show. Wednesday night, here with the boys ahead of a Thursday night thriller, 8:15 Eastern. Steelers at Bengals, streaming on Amazon Prime. Christopher Carter asked Mike Tomlin a question about Joe Flacco being traded in the division from the Browns to the Bengals after he started opening day for the Browns this season. It did create a lot of noise this week. So, Chris, thank you. I do want to say exactly what Mike Tomlin said, just quoting Mike Tomlin here. Andrew Berry must be a lot smarter than me or us because it doesn't make sense to me to trade a QB you think enough of to make your opening day starter to a division opponent that's hurting in that area, but that's just my personal feeling. Now, Chris, you said it was misconstrued, and I do think it was to the point of the relationship that Mike Tomlin has with Kevin Stefanski. This was more a front office feel and a more divisional feel as opposed to, hey, it's the head coach making this decision. Wayne, what do you think about this whole matter? I do like how Mike Tomlin's just at the point in his career where he's like, screw it, I'm going to say it anyway. I know who I am. I know what I am. And I'm just going to be raw, not dog, just raw and honest on what I am as a coach and a person.
And I think that's the key. He was being Mike Tomlin, the person, the fan of football, and not the head coach of the Steelers. It's just like everybody else sitting there trying to figure out, now, why are you trading Joe Flacco? You got two rookies that even if you keep them around, is someone that they can bounce ideas off of that's sitting right there that's won a Super Bowl. It kind of signified to me like management had given up on this season, in a sense, where they were just trying to start paving the way for what they expect next year. They would have a clear path to put in maybe Shador Sanders and get him on tape if something goes wrong, so they don't have to figure out how he gets the leapfrog over Joe Flacco in a sense. It just happens to be the Bengals who are sitting there knocking on the door, which makes no sense why you would want to even let the competition that's just a car ride away, get a better player that is capable of using those receivers and that tight end. So it was just, to me, it was just sometimes we forget coaches are human. They have human thoughts, and sometimes those get out. I thank Chris for making that question as well, because it kind of put more heat on this Cleveland Browns team that almost is getting sympathy from us football fans. Like, when are you going to do something? Like, even if I want my team to beat you, but I still would like you to play some good football, because I'm surprised Myles Garrett wasn't knocking at the door like, hey, let me out of here too. At this point, if y'all aren't trying to win this season, I've wasted a whole nother season when you make that kind of move. So it's just a crazy situation of Cleveland and the kind of different. As soon as you think they have reached the end, they go a little far.
The end never ends in Cleveland with the quarterback position. Hey, just so Chris's head doesn't get too large, when Mike Tomlin said, "I'm annoyed with y'all today," I thought he was pointed it right at Chris. Like, I took it as he's probably directing that right at Christopher Carter.
Absolutely. No, Mike has let me know when he is annoyed with my questions. That was more of he was tired of people asking about the field, and he's like, guys, I don't control the field. It's not
the field was a mess. I mean, the field was a mess. It's got to be like, let's just talk about that. Ben, we'll get Ben. Actually, you know what, Ben? I want to hear your thoughts on Mike Tomlin saying that, and then we'll get to the field, because the field was a disaster.
I'm excited to get into the field talk, but and everything there. But yeah, I mean, Coach Mike Tomlin doesn't say those things often. When he does, they're often calculated, because he doesn't normally come out and say something in that regard on in these sort of situations. You usually get a "we do not care" or a hypotheticals are a waste of our time type of comment from a vintage Tomlinism. So it was interesting to see him kind of indulge it a bit, but at the same time, was he wrong? Was he wrong? But I do think it is a little funky when it comes down to when it's all said and done. But I mean, you brought up the field, so my attention immediately shifted.
Let's get to the field. Cam Hayward said of the field, quote, "Honestly, it was shit. I lost one of my teammates. It kind of makes me sad about it. I like grass, but that wasn't grass we were playing on," end quote. Chris, I'll start with you. What's the latest on the field? The NFL has all this money. Is it the NFL? Is it the Steelers? Is it Pitt?
Why y'all Penn Staters trying to throw Pitt into this conversation? Y'all, first of all, let me point this out. Pitt wasn't even in the state of Pennsylvania, the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. They were in Florida, whooping up on a ranked team, waiting their second Power 4 team. They're still the only college football program in the state of Pennsylvania who's beaten at least one Power 4 team this season. I'm just pointing that out there.
Hey, I was just saying that with the cadence, because I do think it was hilarious how social media gets, it's Pitt. They don't have an Oakland. They don't have and they're not even in the they're
not even here. But here's the other thing about that too, is that they've always shared this stadium. This is nothing new. This you know what I think this was? I think first of all, neither the Steelers nor Pitt own the stadium. It's owned by an authority. It's tied to the state. It's tied to the county, and they manage that stuff. Now the Steelers and Pitt can be like, "Hey, get this going, get this fixed," and they often do, and they plan things. What I think has happened is, weather-wise, we're kind of in the middle of a drought right here in Pittsburgh. And so you look around that there's a lot of people looking at the leaves and being like, man, this is getting kind of weird. Things are dying faster. I think the grass is just beat up and dead because we haven't had as much rain as we normally get. And the grounds crew probably just didn't account for that. I'm not the biggest field expert person on how that stuff works. But right. Yeah, right. But years ago, I heard a really great interview of a guy that on the Dan Le Batard show, of the guy that used to be the head groundskeeper for the Kansas City Chiefs. And he was explaining, listen, we used to have the most pristine field, and everyone used to have the most pristine field until the NFL realized how much money goes into maintaining fields. And that's why they initially started making all those shifts to AstroTurf, because they were like, this is so much cheaper. But then when they saw the injuries, they said, okay, let's try to get the grass. Let's try to do it the same way. He's like, there is a scientific method to make sure that your field is always pristine, is great, and your players are limited in their injuries. But so many places do not want to invest in it. The NFL doesn't mandate what has to be done. There's no standard that's placed there in it. So a lot of teams get to do whatever they want. And if the teams don't own the field itself, it's up to these authorities that run those fields. And so they set the standard. And so I do think this needs to be more of a league thing where they're like, hey, whoever's running it, if you're partnered with us, this is the standard. You have fields this way. There's certain codes or certain practices that are enacted. And in this way you do it. I mean, listen, it was almost really, Miles Killebrew got took out. They could have lost Chris Boswell, but like, this isn't a uniquely Pittsburgh problem. Odell Beckham Jr. just the other week was saying, everyone calls it MetLife. It should be called Met Death because of how many players have ended their careers or had terrible injuries at the Jets and Giants stadium. And he's like, that field specifically is known for taking out ACLs, Aaron Rodgers' Achilles injury. It's terrible. And so I think that there's a lot of standards that need to be met across the league. This was, I think, an individual mistake by the groundskeeping crew in Pittsburgh from the best that I can ascertain. And this isn't tied to Pitt or the Steelers directly, but I think what this really comes down to is the NFL. And we saw a report today saying the NFLPA and members of the Steelers and Browns specifically were furious at the NFL and stating there needs to be improved standards. So to me, this needs to be coming from Roger Goodell, from the owners of the league, saying, hey, across the board, whoever runs your field, there are certain standards to keep up with it. Otherwise, you're going to start getting fined. There's going to be costs. And if there's injuries that are tied to it, there could also be lawsuits tied to that. If you don't, because then there's negligence suits. Because if there's a certain standard that fields have to keep and they're not kept, this is me using my law brain, then a player could be like, you caused my injury by not keeping up to code here. And then a player can say, if I make millions of dollars a year, how much more millions of dollars did I lose because you didn't take care of your field? I think that's where the NFL is like, we don't want to go down that road. That's why we just don't have a mandate. But I think that the players are getting louder and louder that they want stuff like this, especially if they're the stars, they're the ones putting their bodies on the line.
Wayne, you've played on all sorts of surfaces in your career. What's your take on this matter?
Well, not to age myself, but I opened up Heinz Field back in the day. And the interesting part about the NFL is every year they send out a questionnaire of what turf would you like? And everybody I ever known to play football want to play on grass. So we never wanted to move to AstroTurf, field turf, anything. It's grass. We wanted the baseball stadiums turned into grass because back in those, when they would share baseball stadiums in Oakland or San Diego at the time, you end up playing on the clay surface when you got to that part of the field. So now as a player, you're confused on which clique you want to go with on that day. Playing at Heinz, turning into Acrisure. Back then, they would let the high school play on the field.
I mean, pretty awesome.
And basically, they would just paint the green, the dirt. And you would just be out there, in a sense, playing on loose, high school quality kind of turf. And no one would ever really pay attention. So hopefully people will hear the screams that we have right now as players then and now with Odell Beckham, that this is something that players hated. I mean, I hated going to the vet in Philadelphia. I mean, it felt like they had half of the field was over a subway. When you would hit the turf, it would just bounce and things like that. So only thing, as Chris was saying, we ever thought was that the Rooneys were being cheap. And then we would always have to tell them, well, the Rooneys, that ain't who is in control. But, when you're playing, you're thinking owner of your team because, at best, they may put something in the middle. And we kept thinking, all this money, why don't you just roll the whole field? But something really needs to be done. And as I think what Chris is saying, it needs to be a 32-team policy. And just one team. Everybody needs a standard code. They want to put somebody to police the dress code on the sideline. Then somebody should come and police the field. Yeah,
the field needs a dress code because it was undressed by it just looked horrible. It was noticeably bad, and it made me scream internally, especially when Chris Boswell, I was like, what a mess. Like, he was just planting his foot, and you saw all that junk off the field come up, and he slipped. Ben, I mean, don't get me wrong. Ben and I mean, Chris, you too, we all went to high school, and it was cool. I don't know, Chris, Upper St. Clair played at Heinz Field back in the day for WPIAL Championship. It was pretty cool as a student to go and witness. It was amazing. It was awesome. And Wayne, I apologize for saying that it was awesome at the expense of you actually being on the field and having to play on that high school quality painted over field. But it was cool from a growing up in Pittsburgh perspective. Ben, they've got to fix this. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, and it's funny you bring up the WPIAL championships too. It was always, it was a blood bank guarantee, man, that there would always be rain in the day after Thanksgiving when they played those games too. So you had 4 high school football games on the field, and it was just always rain and sloppy in November. But it was funny. I was you brought the Chris Boswell kick. I had a chance to meet Jeff Reed a few years ago when the Steelers were in Atlanta. We were talking about the field surface back when he was, and we were talking about icing the kicker, and he was like, "Man, when we would play at Heinz Field, and I would love when they would ice the kicker because I would just sit there and I would just create a dirt pile with my feet, and the refs would try to yell at me. He's like, "Nah, man, it's just how the sod is here." He's like, he would pretty much create a T for himself while the opposing team was trying to ice him on some field goals with just how bad the field was. Because this is nothing new. Like Chris said, this has been going on for nearly 3 decades at this facility, man. And everyone loves to blame Pitt. They love to blame Pitt like they weren't away on Saturday. And then, like Big Ben, like the thing that was making its rounds, the last day or two, Big Ben said they need to build a stadium on campus. Yeah, where are you going to put it?
Yeah, where
no doubt. 30.
Where
are you going to put it? Like where? Like this is like I hate when people bring that up too and talk about Pitt needs a stadium on campus. No doubt, but there's no room. And this isn't new. This isn't anything that hasn't been going on. It's just point blank. Period. They have to be better at the facility and getting that field ready to go because there's no excuse for this past Sunday. And I think that's where a lot of the frustration's building from is, Pitt was off. They had been off for a week. They really haven't been playing on it that much. They had back-to-back home games, and then they were off on Saturday. I mean, come on, man. Like, you got to be able to get that field in decent shape. And it's just, there really just is no excuse for it to be that bad. And it was that bad on Sunday.
A point that I want to point out, because we talked about the WPIAL football championships being at Heinz Field, Acrisure Stadium. Can you guess how many teams, high school football teams, have more wins in Heinz Field / Acrisure Stadium than the Cleveland Browns?
Claire.
Alderdice.
Alderdice has like 1, so no. But how many Western Pennsylvania football teams?
North Allegheny?
There are 15 high school football programs that have more wins at Acrisure Stadium / Heinz Field since it opened in 2001. And to fully explain to our audience what that means, the Browns mandatorily have to play there every single year because they're in the same division as the Steelers. Meanwhile, for a high school football team to have to play there, they have to go throughout their entire season, get to the playoffs, win through the playoffs, get to the championship game, and then win the championship game. So there are 15 teams in the last 25 years that have done that more times than the Browns have simply just won in Heinz Field / Acrisure Stadium. That is how much butt the Steelers have kicked of the Browns in the last 25 years of your life.
This is the stuff I live for.
No,
man.
this
is what I live for.
That's what you clip from this show right there. That's hilarious.
I mean, that's
so funny.
Oh my God.
That's so funny. You know what? All the high schools that play on there Friday, it's still Pitt's fault that it's terrible on Sunday. Okay. That's what I'm going to end with. We've got to go to break. Before we go to break though, this gentleman with a lot of gall, Justin Gall, Hubbard Turfgrass Systems Inc., 1527 South Colebrook Road. Manheim, PA, 17545, best sod in the U.S. Hey, maybe make a call. If you see this show and you have some authoritative opportunities to fix the sod on the field at Acrisure Stadium, consider it. All right. Gall, he says that's an awesome stat. We gave him a plug. He's given us some kudos. All right, we're going to go to break. When we come back, we'll head to Wayne's world. Not sure what Wayne's going to be talking about in his world today, but I'm excited. We'll also preview the Bengals and the Steelers for that Thursday night football game. This is the Steelers Squad Show on the Locked On Podcast Network.
I'm Cody Rourke from Locked On Broncos, and this episode is brought to you by Peloton. Peloton is shaping the future of fitness with the brand new Peloton Cross-Training Tread Plus, powered by Peloton IQ. This is Peloton's most advanced equipment yet, giving you real-time guidance and endless ways to move, whether you're running, lifting, or you're cross-training with your favorite instructors like Alex Toussaint. It's training reimagined to make your workout more personal. Peloton is built for breakthroughs with features that help you plan, stay motivated, and hit peak performance. You can let yourself run, lift, flex, and go while Peloton handles all the rest. Plus, Peloton IQ provides real-time strength coaching, tracking your progress and suggesting weights that challenge you so you can get stronger. Plus, the new movement tracking camera, it counts your reps and corrects your form in real time, making sure every rep is safer and smarter. So let yourself run, lift, flex, push, and go. Explore the new Peloton Cross-Training Tread Plus at onepeloton.com.
All right, back here on the Locked On Steelers Squad Show. Ben Bobick, Wayne Gandy, Christopher Carter. The Steelers, little Thursday night football. Short week for the Steelers. The first place Steelers, they're taking on the Bengals, 8:15 Eastern Thursday night, streaming on Amazon Prime. A prime opportunity for the Steelers to extend their lead in that AFC North division. Let's head to Wayne's world. Wayne, when you're looking at this matchup, what are you thinking? What's in your brain as we look ahead to this game Thursday night?
I need offensive coordinator Arthur Smith to do exactly what he did to Myles Garrett, to Trey Hendrickson. I need that same game plan. We're looking at a defensive front that, at least from what I acknowledge, Chris, Ben, Todd, y'all might have more knowledge of this defense than me, but they have one guy over there that causes havoc, similar to the Browns. I think they have about 11 sacks on the season. He has about 5 of them. I didn't see Myles Garrett really make a tackle on Sunday. I'm looking for that same tight end, Darnell Washington. I'm looking for that same Connor Hayward, backs out the backfield. Early on, you could see Broderick Jones a couple of times when he took some sets. He forgot where his help was with the guy. Hey, running backs, tight end, let him know where you're at. No, it ain't no secret. I'm out here. I'm releasing in. I'm releasing out. That same type mentality, running at him, wear him out. I think that is the bell cow to this defense of Cincinnati, stopping him, keeping him completely on the road. Fatanu, even if he switches over there, don't let him hide. Don't make this a pride game trying to prove who can go one-on-one. They got one guy until somebody else proves that they can rush the passer, and that's who you go and you attack. And you make sure you got 2 or 3 hats. Somebody's always chipping. Our tackles should be safe this game. I mean, last week, we had 0 sacks, Chris?
Yep.
In the game. Why? Because they had one guy and we took him out and let the rest of the O-line handle their business. So that's what I'm looking for. Can we duplicate that on a similar defensive front where they really are coming at you with one legit all-star pass rusher?
Chris, when you did your film study, your film review, what did you see based on what Wayne just said on how that can be done and replicated against the Bengals here?
It absolutely can. One thing I talked to I did my sidebar immediately after the game for the Post-Gazette on the offensive line, and they said the rule was with Myles Garrett, there are 4 hands on him every single play. You're not letting him get a chance to wreck the game. And I think what you saw is a complete negation of him. You saw him just phased out of the game. He even said, like, if I was running, but I think I couldn't get to the guys and that's how frustrated he was after the game. He was also expressing a lot of other frustrations, kind of throwing his team under the bus, which that was interesting. But I thought that the Steelers' plan there, like Wayne says, is very replicable for what the Bengals did. The only thing with this is that there are actually other talents up front. Like, there were other guys that got silenced in this game, like Mason Graham, the guy who was picked, 4th or 5th overall in this draft class, was supposed to be the best interior defensive lineman in college football last year. He had a tackle. That was it. Zach Frazier shut him down. Like that was they handled that business there. What was the other guy? Number 96. I can't remember his name right now. Something Collins, Malik Collins. He made a couple plays, but largely he was quiet. Aaron Rodgers got hit 3 times. Dylan Gabriel got hit 16 times. That's what you look at there. And Wayne, I want to flip it back to you for more Wayne's world here, but like you talked about wanting to be more physical and imposing in the run. That was the number 1 rushing defense, and they were there in the 3rd and 4th quarter getting 9, 10, 11-yard chunks there. What did you like out of what you saw out of the run game and the offensive line and how they were setting things up?
I like the physicality. I watched the first step. Is your first step forward or to the side? It lets me know how aggressive it seems that the guys now are understanding. I like Spencer Anderson coming in. Hey, no need to hide. We're running the ball. It's okay. Sometimes just let a team understand that's what we came in here to do. I love that idea. You put in the big body of Washington, who's a great run blocker, or at least a big body. It's hard to get around that man that wide. And you put that, and I just saw physical. I saw guys jumping up, giving the first down sign in the O-line. It was some energy, and it's been growing from overseas until now, and it's kind of like we have kind of wiggled out of that preseason. Those first 2 or 3 games seemed like it was the preseason. Now we're seeing a certain physicality to this offensive line and a commitment by the coordinator of how we're going to get it done. We're going to get it done with using that extra tackle as a tight end, putting a bigger tight end body in there with Washington and those guys, and go forward. And I just thought that, the backs are starting to get a feel to how they're going to be running. And as I said, as long as we're around 100, 110 yards as a team rushing, I always expect us to have a chance of winning the game. It takes so much pressure, and it opened up the tight end game, throwing the ball to the tight ends when you're able to do that, because now a linebacker, a DN, their first step is to brace for the run and not back to stop the pass.
Ben, it took a little bit of time, but finally the offensive line seems to be getting in sync, more physical, more confident, the running game as well. And as the Steelers keep winning and the rest of the division, the conference, the league keeps doing, I don't know what, it's so wide open. You look at the teams at the top right now, and the Steelers, if they can stay healthy, it seems like this is a team that can make a little bit of a run here. And I don't think we were saying that a couple weeks ago.
Yeah, and what we were saying was, hey, give it time. Give it some time. It's going to take a little bit there. Wayne was preaching on how he didn't like how they were playing the preseason. Now you're seeing why. You see those first couple of games felt preseason like. Now they're starting to get a little bit of a rhythm. I'm glad he mentioned guys celebrating. Mason McCormick's cracking me up when they're getting when they're getting first downs and he's on the ground pointing before he even thinks about getting up, man. And that just tells me and shows us, hey man, they're really putting the pedal to the metal here, man. They got a rhythm. They're starting to develop a swag about them. They're starting to realize they're bullying some teams. And we talked about the running back usage, I know, last week, seeing if they could pull those strings the right way. They absolutely did this past Sunday, and it was good to see because, what I saw was guys coming in, you want to ride the hot hand, I get, but guys were coming in fresh. And anytime anybody got a carry, they looked fresh. Caleb Johnson, a lot of meaningful carries on Sunday. I thought he looked great. He had a lot of good runs. And I think Jaylen Warren is just really developing into that feature back we expected him to be. This dude is so tough to get on the ground. And we saw that in previous years how tough he was to get on the ground. And we're seeing it even more so this year. But absolutely, this offense is starting to catch a little bit of a rhythm. And we haven't really even talked about the tight ends, at least in the passing game. All 4 had a catch on Sunday, 1 for a touchdown, and the one. If you'd have told me, if I'd have tasked people at home, said who you think is going to be the tight end to score the touchdown on Sunday, I'm not sure many people would have said Connor.
I would have said Connor Hayward. Yeah, I would have said Connor.
You might have been the guy to say Connor Hayward, man. But the one that really excites me though is is it really seems like Aaron Rodgers and Darnell Washington are really, really establishing quite the connection. You think about that first play of the game, man. That's one that gets you out of your seat watching the game. Like, keep going. Like, hold on to the ball, Petey, as he's running down the field. And it's good to see. He had a lot of nice catches on Sunday. So I just think this offense is catching that rhythm, and it does start with the offensive line because they're playing with some swag now. And like we said, it was going to take a little bit of time.
Darnell Washington, I think, is getting more attention nationally too. People are like, who is that guy? Why isn't he an offensive lineman? And he's catching the ball like that and running like that. That's something there. So 3 catches, 62 yards in that win against the Browns. Definitely excited to see how he continues to be used offensively with Aaron Rodgers. We got one more segment to get to here on the Locked On Steelers Squad Show. Wednesday night edition. This show will be up. You could watch it, but after 24 hours, you got a game to watch. So a very short-lived Wednesday night show. We're glad you're with us. We'll be right back after this quick break. NFL season is here, and honestly, there's nothing better than being in the stadium surrounded by fans cheering on your team, the Pittsburgh Steelers. But let's be honest, getting tickets can be a hassle. Between queues, login screens, and prices jumping at checkout, it can be pretty frustrating. That's why I use Game Time, the app that gives the advantage back to fans. Game Time is fast, easy, and backed by the Game Time guarantee. You'll always get 100% authentic tickets delivered on time and at the best price. Plus, all fees are included, so the price you see is the price you pay. I pulled up Game Time, and in just a couple taps, I saw amazing deals. I'm talking about Steelers games as low as $100, and the app makes it super simple. I can see the exact view from my seat before buying. I love zone deals too. Pick the section, Game Time picks the seats, and you save big. Honestly, it's faster, cheaper, and less stressful than any other way I've ever bought tickets. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, that's promo code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off. Swipe, tap, ticket, go. Download Game Time today. Final segment here on this Wednesday night. Bengals, Steelers, Thursday night preview edition of the Locked On Steelers Squad Show. Christopher Carter, Wayne Gandy, Ben Bobick. I'm Tyler Feldman. Happy to be with you here this evening. Let's talk about the game. We'll get to predictions, and Chris, maybe you'll share one. I know it's not Friday, but you've got to share it on the show here tonight.
Yes, I do, because we got to do it. This is the day before the game, so we're in the clear this week, boys.
You're welcome to wait until Friday. You'll probably get a pretty accurate prediction, but if you want to get crazy, we can do prediction tonight, Chris.
We will do our predictions tonight.
Well, we're honored, and we're happy to have you, as always, the Locked On Steelers Daily Podcast. Christopher Carter hosting that Monday through Friday, and you can check that out there on the Locked On Steelers podcast channel. All right, let's talk Steelers-Bengals. Chris, what are you looking at going into this game? Should the Steelers be scared, or is this one they should win and win outright and shouldn't really be a problem?
It's not about being scared. It's about being just detailed. Just coming. You got to come in. You got to hit your points. And it's especially going to be on those young guys that are up front on both sides of the ball. Derek Harmon has played extremely well. They need him to continue to play extremely well. Get after the quarterback, just plug up the run. Patrick Queen, keep this defense on point. Don't let the open slots here. I think this is a week that, again, we said at the top of the show, the Steelers went and got their cornerbacks, their roster this year, assembled to play against a team like the Bengals. Let it stand this week. Joey Porter Jr. had a fantastic game coming off of injury. He shut down Jerry Jeudy, made him flip out and have some personal foul penalties. Great job. Now you got to do that against Chase and Higgins. And from what we heard from Darius Slay, there's a bit of arguing going on right now between Jalen Ramsey and Joey Porter Jr. about who takes the number one. Darius Slay's like, listen, man, I don't care. Just give me whoever you want. But those guys, they're arguing about when and how they'll cover different guys in this Bengals defense. But I think that's a huge part of this, or Bengals offense, excuse me. But I think that's a huge part of what the Steelers got to do in this game. They have to come out and they have to limit what the Bengals do well and accentuate the things that the Steelers do well. And defensively, that's getting after the quarterback, that's hitting hard, that's taking away, get some turnovers. You dropped a bunch of turnovers in this last game. Get the turnovers in this game. Give your offense some short fields. And then for the Steelers offense, get going with that run game, because guess what? That Bengals defense is terrible. As bad as the Steelers offense has been in a lot of like metrics, the Bengals are even worse in a lot of those metrics. And so I think the Steelers offense has been fine, but in a lot of the metrics like total yards per game, passing yards per game, rushing yards per game, like the Steelers rank at the bottom of the league or towards the bottom of the league, but the Bengals are even worse in a lot of those stats. And it's because they're just not good. Run the ball on them. Like Wayne said, bring out Spencer Anderson, bring out Darnell Washington, bowl these guys over, let Jalen Warren, Kenneth Gainwell, and Caleb Johnson run over these guys, hit them with play action. They don't have great cover guys but them either. And when you drop back to pass, make sure 2-3 guys have an eye on Trey Hendrickson and Aaron Rodgers, make the right throws. This game should play in the Steelers of the favor of the Steelers. But knowing how Thursday Night Football is and how weird things get on the road in the division and everything that happens there, I think this still ends up being close. I'm going to say, all right, are we doing our predictions now? Or are we waiting?
No, you're on fire. En fuego. Stay with it. Just go for it.
I'm going to say Steelers win 29. We'll go 29-18.
You see what Chris did there, everyone. 10 minutes left in the show. This way, if someone goes to the very end for the predictions, they're going to have to go a little bit farther back to get
no
Christopher
idea.
Carter's prediction.
What did I actually pick? I don't know.
Wait, all right. Hearing what Chris said and a lot of great points, as always, from Christopher Carter, what are you looking at previewing the Steelers-Bengals matchup on a Thursday night?
Well, the Bengals can't run the ball, and at the end of the game, it has to stay the same. You got to be able to challenge that front seven, that defensive line, similar to what Chris is saying with Benton and the way they've been playing, Harmon, Cam Hayward. I got to be able to stop the run with that front seven so I can protect on the back end. I don't want to have to commit to any kind of run blitzes. And I love the way the linebackers, Wilson, Queen, I love the way they've been getting downhill. It seems like since that Jets game, they have decided they're not going to sit back. They're going to go into the action and make some plays. And then offensively, this is one of those games where you got to run the ball. You can't give the Bengals the short field. And you're running the ball basically because at some point, as we all know, your main target is DK Metcalf. Well, the Bengals know that. It's a short week. We're going to try to take that component away. That means safeties are being distracted. They're somewhere else. They're playing back. Because of the deep threat that DK brings. And you got to be able to take advantage of that with running the ball. Eat up some clock. You're almost in a similar game plan. You're just on the road as you just took on the Browns. Now, you have a more capable quarterback, but he has his weaknesses at this point in his career. And if we can get into, like we did against the Browns, a lot of second and longs, third and longs by stopping and having success on first down, then you can really go hunt Joe Flacco. He was never Mr. Mobile, and now at 38, 39, you got to be able to get to him. I'm going 2013.
Bengals or Steelers?
For the Steelers.
For the Steelers. There we go. Hey, just a quick update. Brian Mack's Music Archives saying, I thought Hendrickson was out injury. He's listed as questionable with the hip. Will he play? I'm not sure. Does he need to play?
Go test the hip then. If the hip injured, go hit the hip. Are they still allowed to play football like that? I don't know.
You got to be careful these days, Wayne.
To be fair, Trey Hendrickson has yet to practice this week, so that could be a rough sign for him. And like this is a short week. But one thing I talked to, and you can get on the Thursday episode of Locked On Steelers. We do our crossover Thursday with James Rapino of Locked On Bengals. He talked about there is a sense of urgency for the Bengals because they realize even though they started off rough, they look at the Ravens, they look at the other teams, and they're thinking, hey, if Joe Flacco could come in and just help us win a few games here, we could actually find a way to sneak into being just a playoff contender in like late November. But you got to win this game. You got to win this home game for them to even have a chance to do that. And so there might be a sense from Trey Hendrickson, like, I got to be in this game because if we lose to the Steelers, there's a sense that like they'll start to go into the tank if they don't pull this game out.
Yeah, I mean, I get it. They're 1 win away from 3-4. They're also 1 win away from 2-5. I just sense of urgency. It's just kind of funny seeing what we've seen from the Bengals. Burrow being out. But yet, anything can happen with the magic that is Joe Flacco. Hey, the Steelers favored by 5.5. It opened at 5.5. It's now 4.5. Over under 44.5 points. Ben, how do you see this game playing out?
Yeah, I see that typical Thursday night divisional game. It's going to be ugly at times, and I think the Steelers do need to focus on what's been working. I mean, the offense is getting in a rhythm. Keep it up. I just think that they're really going to and everything that Chris was talking about, how they're getting after the quarterbacks, points to it. They really got to get after and make Joe Flacco uncomfortable tomorrow night, because I think that I could see Cincinnati going to a similar offense with the Steelers been successful at. And that's that quick passing game, getting the ball out quick, trying to get it underneath and trying to get basically mitigating that pass rush when they can. But if the Steelers going to have to protect the ball, would love to see them create some turnovers. It felt like Dylan Gabriel was just trying to give the ball to the defense at some point, at a few points on Sunday, and they weren't able to come away with it. But got to protect the ball. These games are weird, man. At least a lot of the times they are on Thursday night, especially in the division. It's a vintage, at least when it comes to me, it's a vintage head versus your heart game, where my heart's saying, well, the Steelers looking pretty good, and my head's being like, look at the record on Thursday Night Football. Look, you had a reaction to Joe Flacco becoming the Bengals quarterback for a reason, and this is why. I think it's an ugly game, and I think the Bengals pull this one out 19-16 on a Evan McPherson money mac field goal as time expires. Shout out Fort Payne, Alabama, and I think the Bengals pull it out in an ugly one, just because I looked at this game at the beginning of the season and going, yep, that's a loss. Granted, with that was with Joe Burrow, but even with all that's transpired, hope I'm wrong though. We'll see.
James Franklin gets fired, and Ben Bobick's a changed man. He's going with the Bengals. He's going with the Bengals on a Thursday night with Trey Hendrickson possibly and probably out, and no defense, and Joe Flacco is the quarterback, and the Steelers are going to find a way to lose this football game. I do not want to have to do a post-game reaction show with the Steelers losing to this iteration of the Cincinnati Bengals. That's like eating 5 plates of Skyline chili and dealing with the aftermath. I just don't want to do that, okay?
Nobody should want to do that.
I don't want to do that. I'm picking the Steelers because of Aaron Rodgers. I think on a short week, a healthy Aaron Rodgers, I think what he brings to the offense against this terrible defense and what he can do on a short week without necessarily preparing like a normal week, his ability to change on the fly and make magic happen at the line of scrimmage. That's where I think the Steelers win this football game. Junior Mafia says, or White Castle, LMAO. Hey, pick your poison. Pick your poison. But I don't see the Steelers losing this game. Brian Max says, Brian Max Music, Ben, man, that prediction was unexpected. And then he's laughing. So was it expected? Guys,
if you're near Fort Payne, watch Local 3 News, man. We got the Fort Payne score on Friday Night Football every Friday night.
I'm streaming online. I don't have the antenna, Ben. Any final thoughts before we wrap this up and meet again here tomorrow?
I think it's going to be exciting time. Look, Thursday Night Football and the Steelers, with the division hasn't been kind. But if this is, we talked about this last week. They needed to get through these next 2 games in the AFC North, and if they could go 2-0, it would signal that there is a new door open for the Steelers. They walked through that first door pretty well last week. Let's see how they walk through it this week, because if they're able to do that, they'll do something they've never done before, and it could signal to everyone that, hey, this Steelers team might actually be different from the past several that have made it to the playoffs and just gotten squashed in the first round. Maybe they are a more formidable opponent, and they'll give themselves that 4-game cushion over the Ravens to allow them to stumble a little bit against some good teams and find their way to the playoffs and maybe even to their first division win since 2020.
The Steelers looking for their first ever road divisional win on Thursday night. They'd be 1-6 if they take down the Bengals. If they win, they will be 5-1 overall, 3-0 in the division, and charging right ahead to that division title and really creating some great separation. I'm hoping the Steelers raw dog the Bengals on Thursday night. Plain and simple. That's what we want. That's what we want, okay? Hey, a reminder, you can listen to the audio of tonight's show on the Locked On Steelers podcast channel, wherever and however you podcast. And a reminder to like and subscribe. That helps us out. But that'll do it for this Wednesday night Bengals Thursday night football preview edition of the Locked On Steelers Squad Show. For Wayne Gandy, for the head-shaking Christopher Carter, for Ben Bobick, I'm Tyler Feldman saying good night, and here we go. We'll see you after the game on Thursday night.